I hear this a lot. It's the elites. They blame the elites. They're behind everything. How a handful of elites control the entire population of the world. But it's not elites. It's more like elites or elites. These are the ones that rewrote history. Before we were named Americans, Europeans, Italians, Asians, there were the Ikes, the Amorites, the Hamites, the Canaanites, ites, Israelites. So this is for Elites, the children of El, because he has a seed in the land, a bloodline. You can never become an Elite. You need to be born into it. It's in the bloodline. I'm going to share with you a couple of old teachings. As you can see in the date, February 26, 2022. This is for my Clapper ads, so excuse the watermark, because that's how it is. They have watermarks on them. I started posting my videos on Clappers because TikTok kept on deleting my pages. So the synagogue of Satan is the Vatican. That's why it's shaped like a serpent. And you see the pregnant stomach? That's that white Jesus that they gave the world. That's born on December 25th, that one. The serpent wearing the crown. The Pope, he speaks for the serpent. He has the head of the serpent. He is a false prophet in the book of Revelation. Mount Etna, Vatican City, you see how close it is? So this is happening today. Mount Etna blows spectacular smoke rings, illuminating rings. So El is the Canaanite gods. That's how you get El leads from, El. El for them was the supreme god, the father of mankind and all creation. He is also referred to as Saturn, the lord of the rings. Etna is in Italy and is blowing rings, also known as Sun Ra. Saturn, as in the Saturn worship of the black cube of Saturn. The Kabbalah, cube of Allah. This is where you get Saturnalia from, which is your modern day Christmas. It's a Roman god, and it was the Romans that gave us these holidays, because the Vatican is a synagogue of Satan. Saturn, god of Rome, also known as Baal, that they would sacrifice children to, which never stopped, by the way. I circled it at the bottom, as you can see, Kronos, Saturn, the god of gods. So you can see who's behind the money and human sacrifices. And modern state of Israel, there's the so-called Star of David, the union between the sun and the moon. So I covered this before. The tribe of Dan was the tribe that broke off the tree of life. You will find that reading in Genesis 49. You notice all the nations? So they broke off the tree of life to serve the serpent. So now the Gentile nations are grafted into the tree of life for the branch that broke off, which was the tribe of Dan. Dan means judge, the judge. And Abba used them to judge the house of Israel for breaking covenant. That's why they colonized us, took our lands, and we went into captivity. Jahwe abandoned his people to their enemies until the time of Israel's spiritual rebirth. Then at last, the exiled remnants of Israel will rejoin their brethren in their own land. Mobilize the enemies, lay siege to Jerusalem. With a rod they shall strike the judge of Israel on the face. So now the judgment is falling onto the judge of Israel, which is the tribe of Dan. Canaanites, more ites, the tribe of Dan, the tribe of the Antichrist. CERN, states with full CERN membership. You see Israel on the bottom, the one they're claiming to be God's children when they're not. In Italy, the synagogue of Satan. In Switzerland, in the middle, the throne of Satan. As you can see in the Kabbalah chart, right beneath Vatican is Switzerland. That is Satan's throne in Switzerland. So these so-called members of CERN are the tribe of Dan, including Switzerland and the United Kingdom. They say that the United States is not a member but an observer, but we're still a colony to the United Kingdom, making us still members of CERN. Every U.S. president minus one has been related to the King of England. There goes the bloodline again. The elites. The District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., Obama, the Beast. The City of London, the Dragon, Charles. Vatican City, Francis, false prophet. Known as the District of Columbia, right? So they'll be shooting these 3 rockets from Virginia. As in Maryland, the land of Mary, the Virgin, Virginia, Virgin Mary, Today's headline: Governor Sanders declares state of emergency ahead of eclipse. So the next couple of videos I'm going to play, keep in mind these things. As you can see right here, the global elites, you see Clintons, right? Clintons. And the Rothschilds. Vatican owns all the world's currency, Babylonian money magic slave system. Follow the money trail. Also, Abba separated the firmament. He separated the darkness from the light because these beings live in the darkness, the second heaven. And that includes the waters, our waters from their waters. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and the third of the part of the waters became wormwood. And many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. Greco-Roman gods, you see Zeus? That's where you get Jesus, for Hail Zeus.
I could not wait to make this video. I wanted to make it last night when I found this information. Do not scroll. This is about the eclipse. Let me preface this. I know that there are a lot of conspiracy theories, a lot of videos being made talking about the April 8th eclipse. I have not fed into any of it because although I like a good conspiracy, I need to see factual information and evidence in the Word of God. And then last night, God put something in my lap. Something that I need to show you about the eclipse, and it's not a conspiracy. It matches with the Word of God, and I have factual evidence. Now, I do not have this all figured out because I have not deeply studied Revelation. That's where the scripture is from. But I want to show you what I got, and I want you guys to help me put this together. Here it goes. So I was online, I'm in bed, getting ready to fall asleep, and I see the "Did you hear the news" guy, right? Everybody knows him. And he made this video talking about how during the eclipse, NASA, but not NASA, a subsidiary, like a group inside of NASA, is going to be firing missiles at the eclipse. And they chose a name for their subsidiary, and their name is APEP, or APEP. They named themselves after a serpent deity. I'm sorry, what? So when he said this, I thought, I'm going to look into APEP. I've never heard of APEP. That's where this starts. But before I went to look up APEP, I wanted to make sure that this was true. Did they pick the name for a serpent deity? Is it really APEP, etc.? This is from nasa.gov, and it's like a download. We're going to zoom in. Let's start up here. Sounding rockets are well suited to study the dynamics of Earth's ionosphere, and a unique opportunity to do so is presented by the annular solar eclipse, which happened on October 14, 2023. Go to the next part. 3 additional rockets with similar instrumentation will be launched from Wallops Island, Virginia during the total solar eclipse on April 8th. Now here's the highlighted part. The mission is called Atmospheric Perturbations, I think I pronounced that wrong, Around Eclipse Path, or APEP, APEP. The acronym was chosen because APEP is also the name of the serpent god from ancient Egyptian cosmology who pursued the sun god Ra and every so often nearly consumed him, resulting in an eclipse. That's a really interesting choice for a name, don't you think? Let's look up APEP. Listen, I know the top is cut off, but it says APEP, also spelled APEPI or AAPEP, which is ancient Egyptian. Another name for this in ancient Greek is Apophysis. It was the ancient Egyptian deity who embodied darkness and disorder, and was thus the opponent of light and order and truth. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Hello. This thing opposes the truth. Ra was the bringer of light and hence the biggest opposer of APEP. Now, when I saw the word apophysis, I knew where this was going. I'm going to show you. In the Bible, apophysis is known as Wormwood, which is the angel or star that appears in the book of Revelation. This is Revelation 8:11. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters turned bitter, and many people died from the waters that had become bitter. I know that there is an actual asteroid that they called Apophysis. I know that. But nothing is by coincidence. They chose that name very specifically. And they didn't choose the Greek version. They chose the Egyptian version so that we would not even think to look it up. I know that there's a lot of information on Wormwood as well. Anybody remember the guy who said he had a dream years and years ago where the Lord showed him something hitting the earth and everything just blowing up and crumbling, and then he heard the words Wormwood and woke up? How intense is this? So tell me what you think. Send this to the people who know. If you have a friend, if you know, leave it in the comments. Listen, I didn't get this by chance. Everything was done in the way that it should have been done. God wanted me to have this information. I truly believe that. Feel free to stitch this. I'll see you guys soon.
Elites in political and sociological theory. The elites are a small group of powerful people who hold a disproportionate amount of wealth, privilege, political power, or skill in a group. L is for Saturn. El is a deity, the father of heaven, Saturn, and El is the god of the elites. Saturday is another day for Saturn. The sixth planet is the sixth day of the week, and it has a six-sided polygon on its north pole. 666. Who else lives in the North Pole? Well, Santa Claus does. More like Satan Claus. December 25th is a pagan Roman birthday for the sun god, which also goes by Saturn. And you notice how he's holding the infant? Because the elites would sacrifice children to him. And they still do. So Santa Claus is for the god Saturn. And Claus is for the colostrum of your mind. And there goes the North Pole. Home of the North Pole, where Santa Claus works all year making milk and honey. It happens to be the mercy seat of the Creator. And who is sitting on your mercy seat? Who are you giving your worship to? So back to the elites. L for elites. I will show you who these elites are and what their belief system is. This ancient belief system goes back many thousands of years, and over time it has been woven into our civilization. Our laws, our politics, religion, corporate logos, and even the Christmas holiday is all based on this satanic belief system, or like Satan belief system. The corporate laws many of the world's people are now controlled by originate from the Druids of Europe and the elites of ancient Rome, which was actually called the city of Saturn. These elites' ancestors go back to Phoenicia, Canaan. So we need to go back to Phoenicia, which today is Palestine, Lebanon, and Syria, to understand these demonic beliefs and what this all means. The Phoenicians worship El, Saturn. There are many names for this deity. Rephem, Shon, Moloch, Baal. Don't judge me because I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing them correctly. Their main symbol of Saturn is the star of Saturn, which today is falsely called the Star of David. All the encyclopedias and all reference works refer to this as the Star of Saturn, which is the pentagram, the one that they call the Star of David. This symbol can be traced back to ancient Egypt and the Sumerian civilization, both who worship Saturn. And it's also worth noting that these demonic elites, who today run NASA, display the computer-generated images of Saturn, which is the sixth planet, as having a hexagram on its north pole. NASA in Hebrew means to deceive. It is my assertion that the outer space does not exist. It is a product of a satanic belief system. The very idea of the solar system is based on the Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. This is where modern quantum physics gets its 10 dimensions. So all of our modern theatrical constructs of outer space and other dimension are based on an ancient belief system. It is quite obvious to me that whether you're referring to the Sumerians or the elites of today, one thing that these elites have in common is that they worship lights and high truth to control the masses. So this is Saturn, and you see the hexagon on top of the planet. The ancient name of Saturn was Kronos, or El Elohim, the Lord of the Rings. Those that were chosen and elected by El were then called elites, allowed to wear a crown or crowns, for the word crown comes from Kronos. There goes the crowns. Let's not forget the part 2 on the elites. For more clarity, go into my page and watch part 1. The Phoenician Canaanites referred to Saturn as El, and anyone who promoted the worship of El was called the elder. To become an elder, you had to be elected, and so they had elections to elect the elder, who were then elevated into society and referred to as the elites. Consequently, it's all money, it's all manipulation, exploitation coming out of Phoenician Canaan. The symbol of Saturn is the star of Saturn, the one that's pictured right here. And you see the shape within the so-called Star of David. Babylonian system of words, terms, symbols, and emblems that have been used to manipulate the whole of mankind. So these ancient systems and the use of words and terms have been and still being used to deceive and control society, to perpetuate this satanic debt-based slavery system. So it's not satanic, it's satanic. So this satanic system originated from the Sumerians, who worship Saturn, found its way from Egypt and into Phoenicia. It is important to note that all these cultures practice ritual sacrifice, which had continued with Talmudic Jews being consistently called ritually sacrificing children in the Holocaust to their god Moloch or Baal, which are the names of Saturn. This evil continues today to Freemasonry, which is a control system used to manipulate society. The elites are high-level Masons, who still partake in ritual sacrifices many times via false flag events. And on the child sacrifices, what do you think Jeffrey Epstein's island was all about? You think they let these children go after they had sex with them? Of course not, they were ritual sacrifices of these children. And Jeffrey had a big list of elites that would visit the island, and among them was the Clintons. And remember how the Clintons had a Haiti Children's Fund? A lot of these kids ended up in Epstein's Island. If you read the Bible, you will see that that's how the elites would get their powers. They would sacrifice children to Baal. One of them that always comes to mind is Jezebel. And off subject for a minute, I want you to know that during the Holocaust, Hitler also killed not only the Jews, he killed gypsies, Jehovah's Witnesses, homosexuals, blacks, physically and mentally disabled, political opponents, including communists and social democrats, clergymen, resistant fighters, prisoners of war, Slavic people, and many more. So yes, a lot of people were killed, not just the Jewish people were killed. And also, they're not the only people that have suffered genocide. My people, the Taínos, they killed 7 million of our people. Our tribal brothers and sisters, the Native American Indians, over 100 million. That's not including Canada or South America. And they're not God's people anyway because they converted into the religion in the 8th century. So they were not the ones that were walking in the desert for 40 years. It is important to go back to Phoenician Canaan because this civilization played a very important role in the history of this demonic elite. The very word Canaan in Phoenician means merchant bankers. Phoenicians set up a system of merchant banking and had the Phoenician Canaanite symbols and words connected to their banking societies. This was in the Middle East and then through Greece, ultimately through Rome, city of Saturn, Britannia, and then to the U.S. comes an ancient Druid Phoenician Canaanite magical system of finance, government and law and education, and all our legal systems today. All our legal system today is based on this fraudulent satanic system, and is completely run through deception. Many of our
Jewish question is the belief that a preeminent, influential global force resides within the world's banks, governments, and media corporations, and that those who dominate these institutions are Jewish leaders, most of whom hold interests that are antithetical to the West, with many favoring policies and influencing politicians who push for open borders and multiculturalism in the West, while simultaneously funding programs that maintain Jewish homogeneity in Israel. One aspect of the JQ insists that Judaism is a religious system dedicated to achieving dominion over the Goyim, or non-Jew, through coveted means. And the evidence for this claim rests in the Talmud, which is the primary source of Jewish religious law, with verses saying, quote, even the best of the Goyim should be killed. Many who ask the Jewish question are asking, should any small group that makes up less than 2% of the population have majority influence and control of that population? Starting with the U.S., the evidence one provides to substantiate the JQ is as follows. Ashkenazi Jews make up 90% of the Jewish population in the U.S. And according to the U.S. Census Bureau, Jews make up between 1.7% to 2.6% of the entire population. Here's the question. How many Jewish CEOs of major media corporations or owners of financial institutions or Hollywood production companies are there? And is this number reflective of a group that holds around 2% of the United States population? The answer is Jews are drastically overrepresented in positions of power. Abraham Foxman, National Director of the APL, Jeff Zucker, President of CNN, Robert Greenblatt, Chairman of NBC, Rupert Murdoch, Chairman and CEO of Fox News, Summer Rothschild, Chairman of Viacom, Henry Kissinger, former U.S. Secretary of State, Robert Zoellick, former President of the World Bank, Alan Greenspan, Chairman of the Federal Reserve from 1987 to 2006, Ben Bernanke, Chairman of the Federal Reserve from 2006 to 2014, Janet Yellen, the current Chairman of the Federal Reserve, Lloyd Blankfein, Chairman and CEO of Goldman Sachs, Mark Zuckerberg, owner of Facebook, Larry Page, founder of Google and now the owner of YouTube, Gary Barber, CEO of MGM, Robert Iger, Chairman and CEO of Disney, Michael Lenton, Chairman and CEO of Sony Pictures, Brad Gray, Chairman of Paramount Pictures, Leslie Mooms, Chief Executive of CBS, Harry Sloan, MGM Chairman, Harvey Weinstein, co-chairman of the Weinstein Company. I really could go on and on and on, because the amount of Jews who own the most powerful banking and media companies in the world is stunning. Control over banks yields control over currency. Control over currency yields control over media corporations. Control over the media yields control over the government. And control over the government yields control over the people.